Yeehaw, hello, and howdy. Thank you for joining us on the Canon Stats Podcast, the weekly Arsenal Analytics podcast. I am Scott Willis, and always I am joined by my co host, Adam Vogie. Welcome, Adam.
Hey
How
Scott,
is
how's
it
it going?
going? It is so good. I am,
Yeah,
enjoying the dream. And the fall is here. It feels like fall. I think I might make some soups here soon and really just embrace it. Start bringing out the Oktoberfest beers and just, yeah.
oh yeah. Just last night I drank a wheat ale, which I would only do in the fall because that's about as far dark as I go. So
Really? No, I mean, I don't know. I enjoy a nice wheat ale in the summertime. They're a
yeah,
little bit lighter. The banana flavors that come into them,
yeah,
I enjoy. My wife is a wheat beer aficionado. Here comes
okay.
my
I
cat
bet
is joining us here now.
you would have liked this. Yeah, no, I'm from the Midwest, so Oktoberfest is a big deal here,
Hmm.
and we many people from here do enjoy the very dark, very thick stouts and porters and things like that. And sometimes I enjoy it. Other times it makes me want to literally lose my lunch. So
I like them, but it's a wintertime beer for me. So
for
yeah,
sure,
I'm okay with the Oktoberfest, which are more like the Marzens and the darker lagers and those kinds that I think are fun. You get more of the caramel flavors from the malts and everything there. So um, maybe someday we'll have to do the beer stats. Talk through the different
beer
drinking and everything
edition.
like that. Yeah, the beer edition of the Canon Stats podcast. Maybe that'll be a good international break one where we kind of talk through all
Or just
those.
drink beer while we talk
Yeah,
about Arsenal or all
yeah.
of the
There's nothing
above.
wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely never done that in my entire life. Drink beer and talked about Arsenal.
No, I stay stone cold sober while I watch sports. It's the only way to do it. Got to keep a sharp mind.
Absolutely. So Arsenal played some games since we last talked.
They did,
Champions League. We're back under the lights, and on the big stage. That
and
was
we played.
exciting. It felt like everybody was up for it and ready to go.
Yeah, no, that. So I had such a bad day on Wednesday because I had in my local time that game kicked off at 2, which means it's going to
Hmm.
end, just before 4 o'clock. And I kid you not, I had, anyone who's an American or any time zone where it overlaps with your full time work can relate to this. I had a meeting that was very much not mine to reschedule from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then another one, same deal, from 3 o'clock to 4. And I didn't realize that until about full time on Sunday, the Everton game. And I looked at my phone because I always do that, look at what the next game is. I did it on Wednesday to look at the Spurs, how long until Spurs. And I was like, oh my God, no. First game in 7 years in this competition. And I literally probably barely missed any Champions League last season. Like I always have it on when I'm able to do that with work.
Yeah,
Um,
you can see you've got a game on in the background right now if you're watching the video.
Yes, I do. That is Bayern Munich and Manchester United, which is my. Uh, I'm sending a message here, so rubbing it in. But thankfully, I did have my phone on me, so I did see an alert about 10 minutes after the game kicked off that Saka had scored, and I was like, silent fist pump.
Yes.
Uh, I wasn't necessarily nervous. I mean, did you feel very nervous? That one felt a little in control, kind of right from the beginning. I feel like there was maybe, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a PSV threat in the first half, but nothing where you'd be like, this is a slog, this is going to be a struggle. It felt like we had that one kind
Yeah,
of
I
under
mean, I think that's
control right
actually
away.
a good start, or a good place to start. Man, I can't get my words out this morning. But were you surprised by the lack of rotation? So yeah, kind of even going back to pregame. I know both of us are probably more on the side of we don't think there's going to be a lot of rotation, but
Yeah.
were you surprised by the basically total lack of rotation?
No, no, I wasn't. I think the day before the game or the morning before the game, I had predicted I think 3 total changes. I thought
Mhm.
Ramsdale would get in, and he didn't, which we'll talk about more. It's definitely a bummer, but I think I was just thinking two
Mhm.
changes in the outfield where I thought Havertz would start, and he did, and I thought either Trossard or Nelson would start because Martinelli was injured, and
Yeah.
that happened. I wasn't really one of the people who thought that Gabriel or Zinchenko would rotate out. I know that was a pretty popular one. I saw Jorginho in a number of places just because he has the experience, but I think it's just we got a little bit of a paradigm adjustment here that we have to take on as Arsenal
Yep.
fans. We've been so used to the midweek fixtures being so unserious.
Yeah.
And we saw that. I mean, Klopp is a little bit of an exaggerated example, but we saw that with a number of Premier League teams yesterday. Brighton were pretty rotated, although they had like Matoma out there. They had Estupinian in the game. Aston Villa were pretty strong. They had a couple of
Mhm.
guys out, but Liverpool really just kind of threw out a pretty rotated lineup. And they kind of paid for it. It took them a long time to really claw their way back into that one in a game in Austria, which isn't really the highest level of competition. So, but no, I really wasn't surprised by it.
Mhm.
This is what the Champions League is, right? These guys, I mean, how many of these guys gave interviews when they signed? They talked about wanting to play in the Champions League. I mean, the North London Derby is a big deal. But these guys are professionals. They can hack a game on Sunday and a game on Wednesday. That's the job, man. Uh,
Absolutely.
go, go look at Manchester City last season. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times Holland and Rodri were in on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then they were in for the weekend too. It's just, and it's not really a case where because Pep does it, everyone else should. It's just this is professional football. I mean, these guys are out there trying to win this competition. We all came into this with 0 points, and maybe in week 5, when if Arsenal have 10 or 12, and the next team in the group has 5, then maybe we'll get some rotation then. But I think we got to expect 9, 10 regular starters in all these games until that happens.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's I came in with like maybe 2 to 3 outfield players rotated a match is probably going to be my baseline. If it's less than that or more than less than that, I'm not really that surprised. If it's more than that, I am starting to get a little bit surprised. The only one that I was potentially kind of questioning was Zinchenko, and that really is only because of like how cautiously he's been brought into the team thus far this season,
Yeah,
where he's been given just the little bits of minutes, and then because he had the injury kind of coming into preseason, and then he only started for the first time last weekend. So I thought, well, maybe because we're bringing him on slowly, he's got that little bit of the history of the injuries, like maybe this is the one where we're gonna, maybe he gets the last little bits to still get him as like some build up some more fitness. So that was the
yeah,
only one that I was a little bit surprised at, but he did get the start. But with Tomiyasu coming in to relieve him, which I was really happy to be able to see.
yeah.
I was very, very happy with the lineup, and it was good, right?
It
Four
was very, it was
goals.
very good. Yeah, four very good goals too. I mean, and watching that back, I had the experience. So I got to watch most of the second half live, but watching that back later, the first half. I mean, I obviously wasn't sitting there and scrolling in real time, but
Mhm.
I was actually even like a little bit impressed or surprised, or I don't know what the word was. I just wasn't expecting the number of goals that kind of got left on the pitch too. I think Arsenal could have had more than 4, for sure. There
Absolutely, yeah.
were there were some really good chances there. I mean, Jesus probably should have had one before he scored his, but I mean, his goal was great. It was just really hard for me to find anything to really complain about. Um, and I said before the game that I thought PSV to have any chance they were going to have to sit back. That's not Peter Bosch though, and
Yeah,
that's not
absolutely.
PSV. So that they made the very interesting choice to not. They left a lot of space, and I mean, they really got. They. I mean, on the plus side for them, they had some bright moments in attack where they looked a little dangerous. They tended to end in shots kind of right at the edge of the box, which isn't the best,
Hmm.
but you trade that for a lot of security at the back, and they have decent defenders by Premier League standards, but it's not like they don't have stars back there. So it was a very bold and probably stupid decision, and they paid for it. But I guess be true to yourself, right?
Exactly right. So I'm looking kind of at the metrics, and in the first half when the game was still in the balance of things, the field tilt was roughly 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal had some spells where they were in control. PSV had some where they were more in control. And then kind of after the third goal, Arsenal let PSV have more of the ball, and then they just kind of take over. After that fourth goal, be able to do it. Looking here, yeah, like PSV were able to generate 12 shots against Arsenal, but really none of note of like real like threatening
Yeah,
quality. Their overall XG per shot was just 5% average here. So I still
pretty
think
poor.
a solid defensive performance from Arsenal at stopping being able to do things. It
Yeah.
did seem like they were perhaps targeting Raya with some the long range shots. Seeing if maybe the wet pitch skid it off when it would be able to create something. But he looked up to it, right? Even the miserable rainy conditions didn't
Hmm.
seem to bug him at all. So yeah, I think overall a good performance from Arsenal here.
Yeah, I mean, particularly when I think we've kind of skated by a little bit in Europe lately. I think like last year, last season, I don't know that there was like a really comprehensive beating that Arsenal laid down in the Europa League. A lot of kind of 1-2-0. I mean, PSV at home maybe was the best game that they played in the Europa League, and that was only two, I think. So, I think in kind of intensity and being up for. I mean, these guys, they're professional footballers in the Premier League. They don't want to go to Norway on Tuesday or Wednesday. They
Yeah,
just don't
playing on a
want to.
plastic pitch, right?
And they didn't look like they enjoyed that at all. I mean, maybe with the exception of Marquinhos, right? Because I think he scored his debut goal there. But that's so. I mean, it's just a completely different mentality, and it's going to be the same from Arteta. And I think one thing that I really did like was his use of substitutions. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
for all the stuff that we've written about Emil Smith Rowe and maybe people being a little too high on him, and blah blah blah. I'm still really happy to get to watch him play. Really happy to get to watch Reece Nelson play. So I love that those guys got to come in the first game at the Emirates in the Champions League in 7 years. It's very cool. Those guys were teenagers last time this happened. So and just I think just getting your Zinchenko out early, just making sure that nobody's gonna be able to second guess him using those
Yeah.
guys for 60 minutes. So it one of those things where it just kind of all fell into place. I don't think he used Nketiah. He didn't have to, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
throw
got to see
throw
Kai
Havertz out there.
move to. Yep, got to see Kai move to the nine. What did you think of Kai's game here? So, I thought this was a good overall performance.
Yeah, I thought it was good too. He seems to be he really seems to be kind of tasked with almost like a glue guy kind of a role
Mm-hmm.
right now, where I think that it because he's from Chelsea and because he's a hated player from from a hated rival, and he came for a lot of money. I think from a PR standpoint, you'd want him to come out and be like ball dominant. You want him to make a lot of nifty skill plays if he's not scoring goals. And obviously, you want him to make a brilliant pass like Granit Xhaka did this weekend or this week, and set up some goals like directly and stuff like that. But it really seems like he's kind of relishing this like role where he's almost like he seems to be doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people it can be harder to appreciate. He's pulling defenders out of position. If you watch back a lot of the goals, at least two of the goals in the first half, he's right there.
Yeah.
if there's a miss, if the player decides to pass rather than shoot, Havertz is
Right.
open.
That Saka goal, the first one, right? He's
Yeah,
right there for the tap in. Should Saka want to square it?
or if even if it got saved and a little
Yep.
deflection, he would have buried it. If you watch the comp that came out that I saw going around on Twitter after the game, making a lot of just off ball runs that aren't getting necessarily picked up.
Mm-hmm.
One really nice one that Jesus did pick up, and Kai, I think, just kind of skied the shot. Uh, and then kind of later in the game, I thought he made a really nice pass to set up a Jesus attempt. It would have been a hard goal to score, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
it's one of those things where just extremely useful, I
Mm-hmm.
would say. Whether that's worth 65 million pounds is up to the beholder, but he's not a hole in the side. We're not playing with 10 men like some people like to say.
No, I think that really kind of dovetails nicely with my thoughts on him as well. I think the other thing that I was really impressed with is again like just his overall presence on the ball. I think he only misplayed 2 passes all day, which was really good. Some very nice hold up play, a
Hmm.
little bit more involved. I think you even saw there was the one break opportunity where he makes a nice play, and the ball's a little bit loose, and he goes and recovers it and is basically kind of takes it off of Odegaard and says, "No, I got this. You go run." Which was really nice to kind of see him kind of exert himself a little bit more, because I think if there's
Right.
one thing that you still want to see him add to his game at Arsenal is a little bit more of that aggressiveness, taking control. So I think that's a good first step. I still think there's a few more moments that he could do that more often.
Hmm.
But there was I think overall a positive day for him. I think the big story though from this is the David Raya stuff.
Yeah.
So there's stuff from John Cross in the Mirror, suggesting that this is looking very permanent. So he says David Raya is set to become Arsenal's undisputed number one. Arteta views Raya as an upgrade on Ramsdale and has heavily relied on stats to back up his argument. So do you think Edu and Arteta are Canon Stats subscribers? So um,
I hope
reading my
so.
piece on them earlier, right? So
If they are, they're using pseudonyms because we don't have them in the roster. But I no, I think I mean you get. I think I remember this discussion kind of happening in probably what was it, late 2021-22 season about Kieran Tierney.
mhm.
And you know what? I think that there are going to be and maybe I mean maybe you can throw Smith Rowe into this bucket too if it doesn't end up working out. But I think that when you target being a top team, things like this are going to happen.
Yep.
And now it's been 2 games. I don't know that this is permanent. It
Mhm.
doesn't feel it to me. It doesn't feel the same as Ramsdale displacing Leno.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'll take kind of these reports with a little bit of a grain of salt because Arteta has said some things that make me feel like he was being pretty genuine. That he wants to have two. He said there's been times he wants to make a goalkeeper substitution, um, unless he's just like a real big politician. That strikes me as pretty genuine. The other thing is that we do really have a lot of opportunities for both people to play, in my opinion. So, Ramsdale's on a big contract for a keeper. I don't think they want to just sit and waste him. But I mean, could he lose this battle to Raya? Absolutely, yeah. And
Mhm.
if he does, then Arsenal are probably going to move him on. He's not going to want to sit in his age 26 season and be the second choice.
Yeah.
Even if Arsenal are a great place to be, even if we do have really positive results, he's not going to want to do that. Nobody does. We saw Granit Xhaka leave for the exact same reason, and he's playing great at Leverkusen. So why wouldn't you want to try to do the same thing?
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is that the biggest part with the Leno Ramsdale one, I think, is the difference in the comfort with the way that they play inside
Yeah,
of how Arteta wants to play. So I think the delta there was massive. I think Ramsdale is comfortable being a quote unquote modern goalkeeper, and I think that that is clear, and that Arsenal were fine with Ramsdale, but the Raya thing is someone that they really coveted. And, once this became something that was an option, that you had to jump on it. It seems like we got a bargain, I think, for this kind of where you think that, someone of David Raya's quality could have gone for a transfer fee. So I think that that's something that, we think we weren't expecting to upgrade on this position in the summer, right? I don't think if you came at the end of last season, you were like, all right, what's the must have? I know when we went through our list of what's the must have positions that we wanted to do in the summer, neither of us wrote down goalkeeper, but
hmm
I don't think either of us really expected David Raya to come available at this kind of opportunity. So like if that had been presented to us, maybe we changed our mind. I don't know. I still, would have been actually I probably would have gone for it because I think less high on Ramsdale than other people are. But I think that this is much more of an opportunity presented itself and we had to take it versus this is something that is holding the team back.
yeah,
And, it's a massive area. So I think we are getting to the point in this team where players that we really like and players that we think are really good are going to have less opportunities, or being able to bring in that next player is going to displace players that have a lot of fans. We're no longer pushing out Cedrics in this team, right? The people
Mhm.
absolutely despise. Like these are all players that we think are very good, and
Yeah.
that's just the kind of the reality of getting to this point. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. I'm a slightly disappointed that he didn't take the opportunity to use his last sub to bring on a goalkeeper, because I think it would have just been absolutely hilarious just to say, yeah, see,
Oh
I
yeah.
told you I was going to bring on a guy like 70 minutes for the situation.
That I agree. That would have been extremely funny. I wish he had. I didn't think about that in the moment, but yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, I think it's gonna be a thing that we have to just deal with a lot more and more. A lot of people described it as kind of like ice cold or ruthless or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think that yeah, it is a results based business. Arteta's job at the end of the day is to like get Arsenal to the very highest point that it can possibly get. And if that means that you've got a player, whether it's Ramsdale or whether somebody like Martinelli takes a step back this season and gives us reasons to be concerned about his production, or somebody like Gabriel or even like Saliba, anyone who is becoming to a point where not necessarily a detriment, but not optimal.
Mm-hmm.
And they have an opportunity to improve on that. That's what they're going to do. That's the business, man. So I think liking these players definitely makes it harder, and having these players like Ramsdale, if that's what happens, or like a Kieran Tierney, where it's like they're not a bad player,
Yeah.
but you can do better. And that's kind of where I think some of the conversations kind of get hung up, is this concept of like you can do better on this player, or this player needs to improve. They're fine now, but they need to be good or great. Um, but we have a guy who maybe is that, or at least closer to that right now that we can get. That doesn't mean that he doesn't rate Ramsdale. I think it just means that Raya to him is better. Raya hasn't faced a huge test, and I think he'll probably get his biggest test on the weekend so
Mm-hmm.
far. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we saw Ramsdale against Brentford, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because he really has been in these two games. He's really not even been a thought, right? Because he's barely been challenged. So we'll
Yeah.
see. But he's passed extremely well.
Yep. So I know the other thing that I was kind of noticing while I was watching the Champions League this week is that it feels like the group stage is kind of boring. I don't know if you've ever kind of noticed that, where I was looking at the stats of the matches and they're just not close. So there was a couple of them that ended up with kind of numbers that were close, but when you looked at like the actual performances, it's
Mm.
just becoming more and more lopsided. Maybe this is because Arsenal have been out of the competition for a while, but I don't think this is a new thing. I don't
Yeah.
know. I wrote about that this morning in the regular newsletter, and I'm still excited for Arsenal to be in here, and I'm going to watch every single match. But I do find myself, while the other ones are on, more interested in just like, oh, let's see some fun goals. So I know Paramount Plus does the Galazzo show, and I
Hmm.
enjoy that versus sometimes watching a specific match, especially when there's not a two, I think, really good teams kind of going up against each other. So I guess, where are you on the group stage for the Champions League?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, it was a tough week for intrigue for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of the matchups were not necessarily lending themselves to that, or at least the ones that did were not the biggest, most exciting clubs in the world. Like I know Copenhagen and Galatasaray played a good game, but like, is that
Right. Yeah.
really drawing a lot of viewers? Uh, so I watched Newcastle and Milan, and
Hmm.
that was a game that was
Yeah.
also
Finished
pretty
0-0, but yeah,
it
it
was pretty
was.
lopsided.
Hmm.
Newcastle, frankly, did not look up to it at all, and so that should have been a loss, and they should consider themselves extremely fortunate that they came out of that with a point. I think Milan gave them that point, frankly, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's been. I think once we get like 3 games in, 4 games in, I think they'll start to the stakes will start to feel a little higher, because it's going to be, if we don't get a result from this, we drop to fourth and we're 5 points out of second, and then all of a sudden we're really screwed. Um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like we didn't get a lot of the big Goliath versus Goliath fixtures this match week for sure. And the only it doesn't help that the only one that we did really was Manchester United and Bayern, and that ended up being a little bit of a bloodbath. The scoreline is very deceiving because that was really all about Bayern, and they didn't even really create like that many chances. They just like took care of business, or Onana let it in,
Yeah.
and the game just kind of took off from there. So
Yeah, do you see the United fans, big upping, was it Athens for beating Brighton? And I'm like, dude, you guys just got beat by Bayern Munich. Take this L, and yeah, don't
First
worry
of
about
all,
it.
first of all, you are Manchester United. Like you should not be chatting to Brighton at any point.
Absolutely.
Give them 5 to 10 years of Champions League style like results before you even like consider them in your conversation. Second of all, is that really how bad? I mean, I guess we know the answer to this, right? That's how bad it's going in Manchester that you have to cheer for a Greek team to beat Brighton in the Europa League. Like that's your highlight. I mean, I guess we've all been there, right? Like
Hmm.
I enjoyed Tottenham not really being very good last season in
Yeah,
the
but
Champions League.
does this suggest that Brighton are now rivals with Manchester United? Like, do they see them that way? Like, this is the team that just
Well,
beat you. Like, why? This is not a good look for you at all. Does this mean you're worse than Athens as well? Like,
I mean,
I'm
would
not
Chelsea
getting.
fans be like, are Chelsea fans going to cheer for whoever plays Nottingham Forest this weekend? Like, I don't. That would be pretty sad, right?
It
So
would be very sad.
I think they should probably just mind their own business. They clearly have a lot of affairs that they need to get in order because that is as messy as Arsenal has been over the past few years. That might be significantly worse.
Hmm.
So and they're also just not playing well on top of it. So it's a nightmare. But the Europa League, this and the Conference League was highly entertaining yesterday. I thought, Liverpool ended up being kind of a an exciting like last 20 minutes to the game. Brighton and Athens going back and forth, and West Ham being down for a lot of that game. Villa lost with almost their full strength side in Poland, so that was a lot more upset friendly. Those two
Hmm.
leagues.
All right. So I think for the last part of part one here, I wanted to circle back to Bukayo Saka and his start of the season. So this is something that you wrote about yesterday, kind of just putting his start into context. And like, I've seen some stuff where it's like, oh, maybe he's having a bit of a slow start or he's having doing that. And I think that is absolutely wrong. Like, he has been sparkling.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's why I wrote it because I felt like the conversation was a little bit like, oh, Saka looks off, he's not, and then the Achilles thing happened, like he's been carrying
Yeah.
this Achilles, and people were like, oh, that makes sense. He looks like he hasn't been playing, and I was like, what, really? Like he looks off to you? And then I started looking at even just coming into PSV where he got a goal and an assist. I think he had like what was it, 3 and 4 or something like that. Like and those are, I mean, that's the most basic number that people can pull. So normally when that number is big upable, like the player's getting big upped, so it just felt really strange to me. So I just kind of went and looked, and yeah, I mean, I think the goals and assists are probably going to slow down from what is he at, like 5 and 7 or 6 and 7, something like that, including Community Shield. But so interestingly enough, he's doing so much more carrying than he ever has
Hmm.
before. Uh, his touches are up about 10 per 90 minutes, which is like 20% over last season. So the building is happening down the right a lot, and he's doing a lot of carries. I have him at 5.6 carries per 90 right now, and he was doing 5 last season, 4.2 the season before. So you're seeing like the incremental growth there. He's creating a lot more, and despite having so much more of the ball, like he's turning it over almost never. So to do all this and to be scoring goals and to be getting assists and to lead Arsenal in expected assists among the regular starters, live ball chances created. I mean, it's been crazy. If he keeps it up all season, like we're talking about, like player of the season type of year.
Absolutely right, and I think this is something that you think about what has to go right for Arsenal, and it's Bukayo Saka needs to continue what he's been doing previously, maybe even take it up a notch, and I think that he's absolutely delivering on that. And so it's crazy to me. Kind of think people are discounting what he's been able to do. I also find it a little bit disconcerting that people are wanting to see less of him, because this is a guy that I want to just see him all the time playing. And
Mm-hmm.
like I understand, like there's a little bit of that, the worry. I think there's the Jack Wilshere thing that hangs over a lot of this for Arsenal fans, where he also came in the bright spark, the young player breaking into the team, all of our hopes and dreams kind of placed onto him, and he just got decimated by injuries and was never able to fulfill the potential. But I don't know, man. Saka is just so good that it's hard to imagine him coming out of the team, and people wanting to limit him makes me feel like the team's potential is limited overall.
Yeah, it's like a PTSD reaction, really. Like, uh, if somebody slides in on Saka and breaks his ankle, and suddenly Saka's got a really bad ankle history that happens after that. I mean, listen, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Like, we
Mhm.
can't prevent that. The only way that you can prevent it is by literally not playing him. But here's the thing: like this is his career. This is what he's here to do. He's here to play. I guarantee you he doesn't worry that he's being overplayed. I guarantee you he does not worry about that. He's probably more worried about when he doesn't play. How can he change that so he does? It's I think there's a lot of people concerned that we're wearing the tread off the tires too quickly with him. But somebody told me once regarding Saka that a set of tires only has so many miles. And my
Yep.
response, I'm somewhat proud of it. My response was, well, use the tread to see as many beautiful places as you can before they're gone. If his career is shorter because of how many minutes he played when he was 19 years old, then I would just be concerned with making the best out of it as possible. And really, I mean, what's the difference between a guy coming into the lineup and playing a ton of minutes in their late 20s and lasting until 33 versus a guy doing it in his late teens, early 20s and lasting until they're 30? It's a net no effect. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think Arsenal are just going to look for the W every time they go on the pitch. Saka's going to play when he's fit, and even sometimes when he's not fit, he's going to play. And we just got to wrap our heads around that. Look at Holland's minutes last season. Look at Rodri's minutes last season. Look at Vinicius. These guys are playing every game. In Vinicius's case, it's like even in a league where they were eliminated from winning that league last season,
Yeah.
he was still starting for those games. So, it's just a cost of doing business.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that comes to my mind too is that I look at the window kind of where Arsenal are at right now, and this is the best this team has obviously looked in what going on a decade. I think you could
Probably, yeah.
yeah, going back to like maybe some of those mid 20 teen years where Arsenal did challenge things. Maybe those teams are in a similar level, but I think this team is better than those. Like this is a team that I still feel like we could go against anybody in the world and not be, I don't think there's anybody, even Manchester City, if when we go up against them, we're going to be underdogs, but it's not going to be overwhelming underdogs where we
Mhm.
feel like we have to like smash and grab to be able to do it. Because I know you think back to like the middle 2010s, and like we'd play against Bayern Munich or we'd play against Barcelona, and yeah, we beat them a couple times, but it really did feel like we had to play as like true underdogs. We had to play, change our style, be able to do things differently. And I don't feel like this team, even when we do match up against, what would be the other best teams in the world, would necessarily have to do that. We wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily have to hope for, being able to defend and then break on the counter to be able to create our chances. So it feels like to me like this window is special, and we have the chance to win or at least compete for the biggest prizes, and we can't do that without Bukayo Saka. And yeah, maybe we are potentially doing a trade-off of if we had managed his minutes a little bit more, like maybe like later in his career we might be able to do some things, but that's going to come at the expense of what we're going to be able to potentially achieve this season.
Right.
And to me, like I know it's it's always a hard thing, and to be able to kind of make these trade offs. But it's like I want to win things. That's why we're here. That's why we're excited. That's why we love this team and why we get excited. Like you don't. Yes, we'll have great memories of last year. We it was a second place that we weren't expecting being able to do that, but you don't remember the second place trophies. You don't remember those ones. You remember the ones where you get to hang a banner, you get to put a new thing on the Ring of Honor at the Emirates with some trophies on it. So that's really, really what I hope to be able to do. And I think we need Bukayo Saka to be able to achieve those things.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And with Martin Odegaard extending this weekend, it kind of, I mean, one important point I think that we need to kind of add on top of that is it's not reasonable to expect even a really well run club to get everything right over and over again. And I think where Arsenal are right now, they've gotten so much right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
whether like to the what degree they were right can be debated all day long. But this was a side that was starting from next to zero 3 years ago, and they brought in Odegaard, and they brought in Ramsdale, and they brought in Ben White. Huge risk for £50 million. Then they bring in Gabriel Jesus, and they bring in Alexander Zinchenko, and now having another summer with Declan Rice and Kai Havertz, who I know hasn't convinced everyone, but we'll see. Yuri and Timber. These are all moves that are looking like they're really working,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously Saliba, Gabriel right before that, Thomas Partey. So I think you've got all these pieces now. Is there any guarantee that if Ben White leaves or if Odegaard, if somebody, when we have to replace somebody due to age soon, that we're going to get that right? No. So you've got the guys now. Like you said, Scott, you've got the team that I think on paper is right up there in the top 5, 4, 3 in the world.
Yeah, maybe two, right? Like I mean,
Maybe
who right? Like I mean, I was kind of looking at it the other day, and it's like, who would I put above Arsenal? I know right for sure Manchester City. After that, I
you
kind of
get
have
into the
questions.
debate after that.
Like maybe Bayern Munich, maybe Barcelona on their
Yeah,
best
Barcelona,
day,
Real Madrid
maybe
are
yeah. Like, but
questions.
like I don't mean PSG. Like they brought in, they had a very busy summer where they brought in a lot of talent. So like maybe that all gels and comes together. But it's like there's no one is questionable or unquestionably above Arsenal right now of that group.
I would tend to agree, as afraid as I am of eating those words in the spring. Um, yeah, it's just on paper. You're right that we're in a unique situation. A lot of the giants have fallen back closer to the rest of the pack, and the English Premier League right now is in a position where it's got so much power. So why wouldn't you put everything you have forward? And I wouldn't be surprised if that is the pitch that gets Stan Kroenke to put out £200 million this past summer, and maybe another 100 on one player this next
Yep.
summer. Is that this is the chance? This is, we always talk about the Super Bowl window here in America. This is like the a really big window, and not, I mean, I just mean like a significant window. Might not be very long, so go out and win as much as you can now. And that's going to involve, like you said, a lot of Bukayo Saka, a lot of Martin Odegaard. These guys are not going to the bench unless they have to, and even then, they're probably going to be pissed off about it.
And you know what? I think that's the way we like it. So I think that's a good spot for part one. So some housekeeping. The show is supported by our much appreciated premium subscribers. You'll get at least 5 additional articles per month, additional premium podcasts. So I just had one with Michael Cayley from the Double Pivot. So that one's available for premium subscribers now. The other thing that you'll get is our everlasting gratitude because you help support all the things that we do. We really appreciate everybody that subscribes and makes it possible for us. So thank you guys. So yeah, next topic: North London Derby, the big one. It's coming.
Oh yeah,
You
I
ready
forgot
for it
about
on
that.
Sunday? Yeah, right. It
Oh no,
hasn't totally occupied all the space in your mind and worry.
it's actually been nice to have the Champions League on the same week because it has kind of taken some of the
That's a good point.
yeah. It's like we didn't even have Europe. So it's an improvement. I think I would rather have kind of a barrage of big games,
Hmm.
where we don't have time to sit and freak out about every single thing in between. So that's nice. But no, I mean, it's been circled on the calendar since the beginning of the year. Like we knew September, it's September 24th, right? We knew that that day was going to be the North London Derby, and as we've had all these games where Spurs are getting more and more, kind of like praise and momentum in the press, it becomes a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. So, I mean, it feels very big at this point for sure.
Yeah. Uh, so I think that gives me too is like my worry level with Spurs has gone up over the last couple of weeks because I think that they are a better team than I kind of anticipated going in. I've wanted to discount heavily what they've done. But I find myself potentially working into the narrative that we all made fun of so much last year, where all I remember. I don't know if everybody remembers this one, but the Athletic asked a bunch of their writers ahead of the first Northern Derby about their predictions, and everybody was like, "Well, Tottenham haven't hit their stride yet, but they're still picking up points. So imagine when they do it." And I just can't help but see the echoes of some of the stuff with Arsenal. Arsenal haven't hit their stride yet this season. I think that they've been significantly better than what Tottenham were at the end of or at the beginning of last year, where they were winning points. But there's still just that little bits of naggingness that are making me worry that maybe this is a harder game than we anticipated. So I don't know where you're at on the scale of worry.
On the scale of worry, I mean, it's an interesting time for sure, because I think that you look at their results, and yeah, I mean, I think they've come out a little bit better than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that is just kind of sticking in the back of my mind is I don't know if they've been as I don't know if like the actual results on the pitch have backed up the narrative. If you catch my drift, they've been very consistently creating like right around two expected goals every game.
Yeah.
Um, and they hung five on Burnley, but every other game has been two. So
Mm-hmm.
you look at that and you're like, well, 2 goals a game is good.
Yeah.
It's a good attack. So you know, I think that they've also had a lot of things go in their favor. Uh, like Manchester United missed so many chances against them. So they, I'm kind of like in kind of the in between of where you are and not being worried at all. Like I do not think that
Well,
they're
I'm
terrible.
actually a Spurs fan, like as everybody knows, right?
Yeah, you're
So.
Judas, of course, but I think that if I think I'd be more anxious as a Spurs fan actually, because Big Ange
Mhm.
has got like a really interesting kind of dilemma on his hands here.
Absolutely.
Because he told the press today, I think it was today, that we're going to play our style, mate. We're not
Yep.
going to change a thing.
Mate.
And that is potentially the most brilliant idea possible, or potentially a huge invitation for a lot of problems. We saw, we have Arsenal have not seen basically anyone who's done that this season in the league. So,
Yeah,
you
not even
know,
Manchester United, like, right? They came in like with a game plan where they had more of the ball, but they had more of the ball in a very
they're
controlled, slow, like they just wanted to slow the game down, keep the ball in their own half kind of a thing. And I
mhm.
don't think that's what Ange means when he wants to play his ball.
I don't think so either. I think he wants to get it up, and I think he wants to attack. He's got, James Madison on a tear right now. He's got Son looking good again, and
Right? Yeah, he's got a little bit of a renaissance coming moving to the center forward spot.
he's got the Sonaissance. Yeah, he's it's so. I mean, one I was kind of like going through prep before this, and there's a lot of really interesting things going on with Spurs statistically right now. So obviously you've got some XG over performance, like the side in general is finishing at an extremely high level.
Hmm.
But you would also, one interesting thing about Spurs is, while they haven't like given up, like the worst XG conceded like in the league or anything like that, but they're deserved to give up about 7 so far. They've given up 5. Deserve to score
Hmm.
about 9.5. They've scored 13. So there's some big like, will that keep up forever? I mean, compare and contrast. Arsenal 9.3, 9 scored, 4 conceded, 4 conceded. So
Yeah.
uh, I just was curious about this, so I looked at shooting statistics specifically, and in terms of like opponents' performance, um, Spurs have had the third worst shooting performance against them in the Premier League so far.
Yeah. So
So
you're looking at like on target or the post shot or both here.
just NPG minus XG.
Okay.
So Fulham, West Ham, and then Tottenham in that order. So there's some interesting stuff here, because to me that says, okay, let's say that Spurs decide to come in and actually play their game. That means that they're going to be vulnerable at the back, which I think, objectively speaking, is just a truth. Like Pedro Porro, Udogi, uh, Romero, like these are not guys who are like shutting down attackers, right? This is like an aggressive group of defenders who is going to also make mistakes. So the bad thing for them in playing that is they're also playing some of the best attackers in the league. Uh, Gabriel Jesus and Bukayo Saka, I think, like have to be in the top 10, if not better. So I just think that they could be inviting a lot of issues here. Manchester United have not been off to a good start. The only team that they've really played that has looked good at all at any point is Brentford, and
Mm-hmm.
that was a draw. So
Yeah, and
that was
Brentford had some big chances to win this one. So I'm looking at the kind of the running XG. So yeah, Spurs go up early in that one. Brentford get a penalty, and then they add a second, and then they have a chance right before halftime. That's huge. They miss. Spurs equalize, and then they had a couple more chances to they really could have put things away to make it 3-2. So yeah, that one was, I think, definitely one that on the balance of chances, Brentford probably should have done better. I think there's a
yeah,
similar story with Manchester United too, right? You think about that first half. I think I wrote at tweeted out at the time that like this is one where I came. This is right before Arsenal played Manchester United, so I'm really interested in what they're doing, and I'm like, ooh, Manchester United look good here in that first
yeah.
half. Like they really kept Spurs out of dangerous locations. They had like three good scoring chances. They had there was a Bruno Fernandes chance that he misses. There was a Marcus Rashford chance that he just misses. And then there's a couple other kind of like half chances. And I was like, man, they are just like cutting through them here. And I was
Mhm.
worried about Manchester United, but now I'm thinking maybe Tottenham are there to be gotten with, right?
I mean, I think that if we, one thing I've been trying to do, like rhetorically, philosophically, is like, what would people say if Arsenal were getting those results? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
would we as Arsenal fans be saying if we were sitting here with 4 wins and a draw? Oh, sounds familiar, by the way. But with the same results, right? So Burnley, 2.2 to 1.3 on XG. They conceded two. They scored five. They scored five on 2.2 XG in that game. Would people be convinced that that was just like a complete shellacking, or would they say, well, we got more than we deserved from that? Um, you know, and Burnley, I'm sorry, have not been good at all. So I get
They have a little PSV in them, right? Where they're trying to play their style, but they're trying to play their style with the talent level that doesn't live up to being able to impose yourself that way.
right. It's gonna be boom or bust basically with that. When you go in like trying to play that positive style with lesser talent, you're gonna nick some stuff occasionally, but you're also gonna get your rear handed to you sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
And
We've seen
Burnley,
this kind of with like Norwich, like in the past, right, where they have come up and they've had a couple really kind of nice moments that really go viral on Twitter, but it's not really something that works long term.
right, exactly. And so, I mean, Burnley have had that problem, but Burnley have played kind of a brutal schedule to start the season, but their best output so far is against Tottenham. So,
Yeah.
uh, I think there are enough questions for me about what's going on with them that I'm not completely convinced that this is like a turnaround. And God knows we've had how many years in a row with this club where they have come out and looked great or been in first place at the end of August, and then something changes and it just doesn't work anymore. So I'm still, maybe I'm just being stubborn, maybe I'm just being an Arsenal fan, but I'm still kind of betting that this is not the real level of Tottenham Hotspur this season. So whether Arsenal are the ones to help them discover the real level, I would love to be that. I'm not for sure, but if Big Ange is going to come out and play, an open style, if he's going to
Mm-hmm.
press aggressively, if they're going to really try to actually bring the ball to Arsenal, like I put my money on Declan Rice, I put my money on William Saliba. Raya's going to start, like we know that, and I have a lot more faith in the personnel for Arsenal
Mm-hmm.
for sure,
Yeah, I
particularly once
mean,
you get into defense and midfield.
exactly. So they like to. So they line up nominally in like a 4-2-3-1 type of shape. It's kind of like a 4-3-3 almost at times too. But out of, or like when they actually have possession and they're building up, they like to really push up the wingers to hold the width. They push up their midfielders, so it's a really like a 2-3-5 that we've been seeing. So it's in a very aggressive shape. We've seen Arsenal go more with like we've seen the two from Arsenal, but a lot of times it's more of a two and a half, five. So where
Yeah.
we really kind of like alternate that third guy, and Ange has really pushed up and been a lot more aggressive to where sometimes it's even like a 2-1-2-5, where they're really, really aggressive. Does that mean, or does that make you excited kind of for the thought that, Saka might not have the double teams and triple teams and he might be able to exploit a little bit more space?
Yes.
I'm really kind of bummed that we're not going to have Martinelli in this game, because I think he would have feasted on the space that's left on their left hand side. Because yeah, that's Poro's side, right, where he is just
Ben
not
Poro,
a
yeah, or and if it's not Poro, it's Emerson. So either way, you feel great about that. I just feel like they have the same problem on either side, which is that they've got attacking players
yeah.
playing fullback
Udogie has
in a
been
back
has
four.
been very good, but man, like I worry about him vacating that space and leaving their center backs on an island.
And I mean, I think for this like 2-3-5 type of style to work, I mean, first of all, you need a midfielder who can really help you control like the transitions, so that you're not so easy to break against. But like at the huge thing for me is I need a keeper that's really good, and I need two center backs in front of him that are really good. And do I think that Vicario is that keeper? I mean, he's been pretty good so far.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but do I trust him? Like, have I seen something to convince me? No. But more importantly, do I think that Christian Romero and Mickey Van de Ven are that center back pairing that's going to be like sweeping out, stopping moves like Saliba and Gabriel do? Like, no, no, absolutely not. If I have if I have a 3-on-2 happening and it's Odegaard and Saka and Jesus and they're going up against those two, like I feel very good about that. I just do,
Yeah,
because Romero is probably going to make a bad tackle and give a penalty or a yellow card, or just like get run past because he attempts like some kind of stupid decision. It's just too aggressive. So I think I have a lot of doubts, and I hate making predictions, but I think Arsenal are going to win by multiple goals.
yeah, I think there's a good chance of that. I think we might. I felt so more relieved. I think seeing Arsenal be able to attack space against PSV, that I think that there is a potential that there might be able to be something here. The vibes coming from Postecoglou suggests that he's not going to change things, so that space might be available. I
Mm-hmm.
think Gabriel Jesus really reminded us of his performance, that this guy is still one of the best attackers in the league, and we've kind of been discounting him a little bit too much. Really, just like the absence of him has kind of
Yeah.
made us lose kind of track of what he is capable of. Because wow, what he did against PSV was really good. So I think starting from the top there, we all agree. I think we all agree Jesus is starting against Spurs, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's got to be the
No doubt.
one. Is it Trossard on the left or Nelson?
I think it's going to be Trossard again. I think Arteta showed. I yeah. No, I
I don't.
think
I mean, I think to take it like there wasn't anything in the Champions League match that Trossard did that made me think this guy lost his spot. Right?
no, absolutely not. And one of the nice things about having Trossard out there is that he can make the opponent pay, for giving him a relatively small like opportunity to score.
Mm-hmm.
Like his chance against Everton was not a great chance. Like it was a beautiful play to set it up, but like I mean, what was XG on that? That was probably like 0.08 or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
like smoked it. And the same thing.
And off the post is such a pretty finish too.
Yeah, and exact same thing against PSV. Like that's basically from the edge of the box, right footed. So I think he's doing so well with those chances that you combine that with like just the general ball control and the work rate and the ability to create for others. I think it's got to be him. As much as I love Reese, Reese coming off the bench at 60 minutes is also a really good thing to have. So
Yeah, I think that might be the thing here, right? Let's if we need something, especially like go cover Trossard for 65 minutes, and then bring Nelson on, who I thought also had a really nice cameo against PSV.
he's like on a
He's
hot
looking
streak of that.
yeah, he's healthy. I think he's got some of that power back into his game, and he's always had the technical level to kind of go with it. It's just his body has always let him down. So I think it'd be really exciting to see him come on. And then I think obviously Saka is going to play. I think Odegaard
Mhm.
is a lock. The other one that's kind of open for debate there, I guess, then is the left eight. Who are you leaning towards?
I think I think that Vieira has earned it. I
Okay,
would give Vieira the start. I with Declan Rice behind him and Saliba and Gabriel also in the lineup, I feel a lot more secure playing Odegaard, Rice, Vieira than I would normally. Havertz, I mean, if Arteta starts Havertz, I will completely understand because I think that's giving you a lot more control over like if it turns into like a basketball game, right? Like you would trust Havertz to make some really key ball recoveries and things like that. That maybe Vieira is less. But I think that the nice thing about Vieira in this match is that if those spaces are getting left, and runners can find them, Vieira can find those runners.
absolutely.
Like that's like his bread and butter. So kind of like Ange has a dilemma. Arteta's got a little bit of a dilemma too. Like, do you try to control the game like we have for the first 5 league games, or do you look for the guy who's got the ability to pick that lock?
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth on this, right? Because I can think of like Vieira, if like we're gonna play on more transition. Like I feel like his passing in that transition game is very good. He
Mm-hmm.
might be up there, like even better than like Odegaard. I think at some of his transition passing and being able to find the spaces and pick them out. But then I also kind of think like, all right, well, if Spurs are gonna come in to press, I kind of like the idea of if we want to play over it quickly to be able to try to create a little bit more. Like maybe Havertz is a good target, and he's also been very good, I think, at getting some of those second balls,
Mm-hmm.
giving us a little bit more of that size. You think about Declan Rice and Havertz in there trying to win some of these second balls that we have up there, and then you have Jesus and Havertz as like targets for being able to go long, and like both of those guys would be really good. So I could see I can talk myself into either option right
Same.
now,
Yeah.
and I think I'd be happy with. So I don't think either would shock me. And I'm kind of like I don't know, and I'm glad I don't have to make that choice. Declan
I
Rice
know.
feels like a lock for the center of midfield.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love Jorginho, he's not playing or he's not starting this game.
Not this one, no. And he'll probably get in for Brentford too. So it's yeah. No, I totally. And one thing we haven't even like talked about, but is a great, I think a great like justification for Havertz maybe being in this lineup is I thought that he and Raya like showed really good like chemistry on some of
Mm-hmm.
those long passes. Like Raya seems to really like finding Havertz with those, and Havertz and Jesus between the two of them, just like some of the balls that they brought down so well against PSV,
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
insane. Like multiple like beautiful first touches that really ended up making a big difference. Like Jesus a couple times, one I think a shot that he missed and one on his goal, just like bringing it down. So like I don't even know how you do that in
Right,
a
yeah,
lot.
like bringing it down on his chest on like a 60-yard ball that's like right, like just like it's nothing.
Yeah, just it's like yeah. And there was one where Havertz like I think he used his front foot. It was his left, and he like kind of it looked like he
While
almost
he
like
was grappling right with the guy too,
yeah.
like he like both of them were holding on, and like he like wraps his like leg around, and yeah, it was
It
beautiful.
was yeah. I mean, just beautiful first touches. So you could definitely see that being kind of the idea. I think I'm not. I guess I don't really fear like a pressing front three of Son, Kulisevsky, Madison, and who else would they on the left? Maybe like Solomon or
Yeah.
Richarlison or like that. That doesn't necessarily put a lot of fear into me. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of the same as you. I could talk myself into either left eight. I think those are the two choices though.
Yep. And then at the back, are you making any changes? I think it's sticking that
Same.
four. It's looked good coming back. I think we've been very nice to have Zinchenko back in the team. Yeah, he just adds something special to be able to do that, to build that double pivot with Rice, and it just makes it really good. And then I think we already said that you're sticking with Raya here.
Yep.
I think it is too, right? I think all the smoke has suggested it's David Raya starting, and I'm not surprised by that.
No, and I'm not either. It's going to be interesting. So this is obviously a big league game. First Champions League game was big before that. So, you've got those two right next to each other. It's going to be interesting as we get into like one of them is a cup game, and then even the league game after that is I think Bournemouth, and then you got a Champions League game after that against Lons, and I think you could see Arteta maybe deciding to give Ramsdale a game or two in there. But I think generally, like when we've got these high stakes games, I think he's going to ride the hot hand, and
Hmm.
that is very much Raya right now. Ramsdale is, he's great. I think he's very much an above average goalkeeper to good goalkeeper. I think with him you kind of get the variations though. You get the wave, the peaks and the valleys, and you don't get that. Like I think his peaks are as high as any keeper in the world, but
Hmm.
his valleys are as deep as a bad keeper sometimes. And Raya seems to be more predictable and reliable in that sense, where they've got similar skill level, I think, just volatility.
Hmm.
And volatility can kill a title charge. It can kill a Champions League second leg, So
I mean,
it's
yeah, right. I
understandable.
think it can put you behind too easily, right? Because that was the thing that's killed us at home, like in so many matches, is that first shot goes in and it puts Arsenal under undue pressure of needing to fight back and scrape to be able to do things. So it's not necessarily, and I keep going back to this. Like, I don't think Ramsdale has had like any massive howlers. Like, I don't remember anything like the Onana goal that he conceded from Ramsdale per se. It's just a lot of the medium quality ones where it's like it would have been nice if he could have gotten to it. Like he just misses because I think that when there's the really hard ones, like he does actually do a lot better than expected. Like he is a
Yeah.
great one-on-one keeper. It's just those like ones that are like in that like 40 to 60% savable rate that he just underdoes a little too much.
Yeah. No, I agree. I saw a really good post um somewhere on Twitter this week that basically said like Raya may never be as good as Ramsdale was at Anfield last season, but he'll never be as bad as he was against Southampton. And I
It's
think
a,
I think like that's a good way to put it, right? Just the volatility is it can be too much. So, am I taking Ramsdale out of the team? Am I, emotionally moving on from him? No, absolutely not. I think he's going to get some important games this season regardless, but you can understand it. So, sucks
absolutely.
though. I don't like replacing guys I like. I like when they like take a huge step forward and become Ballon d'Or nominees like Saka did and Odegaard. Like I didn't never want to replace those guys. So it's just there's definitely an attachment to Ramsdale. So it's tough.
Right, and it's like why can't these like guys just be an asshole and then we can like feel bad or not feel bad about like
Yeah.
seeing them like lose their spot, right? It's just this game is not fair. It's not, yeah, fair on fun of this stuff.
Yeah, it's very easy when you dislike the player. Like I never liked. Well, I probably did for a stretch, but toward the end, I never liked Gendouzi. So like I was never felt bad about him leaving. I was like, okay, good, like get out.
Yep.
But very much the opposite with Ramsdale.
So no, I appreciate you calming my nerves, talking through Spurs, where I have my tendency to want to like overrate my favorite team and get them feeling good about their chances against Arsenal. So thank you, Adam, for helping me there. Hopefully this was good for everybody else as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm the voice of reason, and I'm gonna feel a lot of personal responsibility if Arsenal do not win by multiple goals because that's my prediction. I hate being wrong, but also like just getting stuff wrong in general. Just it makes for a lot of introspection. So I'm really counting on Arsenal like handling business here, and please God, no like 30-yard James Madison screamer goals because I can't take the narrative of Madison being so much better than Havertz. It's just driving me crazy. So Kai Havertz to score, Madison to not. That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Let's mark it down as a lock.
Put
I
in your
think that's a
bets.
yep. Put it in, right. That worked so well last time, right? You gave me betting advice.
Well, I'm not gonna give you any more hot picks this weekend. So other than this one, we'll see how that goes.
There we go. All right. Well, I'm about to go put my life savings on a Havertz goal and Madison 0 goals, and we'll see how it goes. All right. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to this one. Always a favorite, a good thing if you go give us likes, reviews, all the wherever you listen to podcasts, stay up to date on Canon Stats. Best place is just to subscribe to canonstats.com, and then you'll get an email. Or if you get the Substack app, it'll give you a notification when all the new stuff comes. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Cheers, y'all.